Hello. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the most recent module that I've added, the stop-loss module. Now I have a chart here where I have my MACD winter recipe, and I have the stop-loss module and the dollar cost averaging module. The recipes are identical in both sides otherwise. But before we get into this too deeply, first I need to make sure a few points are very clear about the stop-loss module. First and foremost, this module is not a trailing module. Second, this module is a very specific algorithmic stop-loss based upon risk-reward. And we're going to zoom in and do some discussions on this module. Right now I have the module set up in standard risk-reward format. Let me really get this zoomed in. Okay, here we go. Now, part of the nomenclature that needs to be discussed. The blue line is the purchase price. The red line is the stop loss. The green line is the profit boundary. The basis of this algorithm is the blue line to the red line is always a 1-to-1 ratio. The blue line to the green line by default is a 1-to-1.5 ratio. Understanding this is important because if you have a 1-to-1.5 ratio, if your wins versus your losses are even, you will always have a profit. So as long as your wins and your losses are at least even, this will always profit. A 1-to-1 ratio is a pure break-even. So right here we have 13 wins to 11 losses. We're going to average roughly a 1% total profit, since each profit boundary is 1.5. The 1-to-1 cancels out. It gives us a 0.5 per win, so that gives us a 1% total victory over the entire position size trade cycle. Now let's go back to some very specific approaches. Let's start back here. So it made the purchase here. The purchase crosses the risk-reward level and it made a sold. Straightforward, very easy to deal with. Now we follow it up. Here it made the purchase. Here the market went against us. It sold out at a loss. So, between those two, we made a 0.5% profit. The 1-to-1.5 risk ratio. So, let's zoom out. Same thing here. It purchased. The trade went against us. It did a stop loss, hence the red marker. So as you follow this information, same thing, it got in, the market went against us, it stopped out. Now in all of this, the one thing you do need to pay attention to is that there is no accumulation. None. The stop loss module directly and deliberately blocks all accumulation. Your buy to sell is a 1-to-1 ratio, even if it is at a loss. One purchase to one sell always. So now let's do a little bit of going back, checking out our history. You'll notice that this is the winter trading cycle. Another profit, another loss, another profit. Now, let's go into the settings. I'm going to move these over here. This does work in long or short directions. Now, in the short direction, the green line is the reward boundary. The red line is the stop loss boundary. Now you have risk reward. Or strategy-based reward. In strategy-based reward, the sell marker is on the basis of the reward functionality. So here, for example, it purchased it. All of this took place, but then it actually sold right here, based upon the algorithm producing a sell marker. Now, a platform-specific trailing stop loss might have catched these peaks, and it's always a good idea to consider. But from the standpoint of this algorithm, it does and did what it was supposed to. But be sure you pay attention over here. We have a win factor of 3 and a loss factor of 12. Overall, this would lose money. Again, we have a situation where if you had a trailing stop loss from your platform, you would have made a very good profit. But the algorithm did what it was supposed to. So there are considerations to look at. There are other considerations to deal with as well. Let's go back to this section. And let's actually do some testing. Now, the multiplier is a derivative of the ATR times this factor to create a boundary scope. The look back, of course, is how many candles it looks back to determine this gap. The bigger the gap, the bigger the multiplex, the more risk. For example, here you can see various possibilities that may or may not increase your probability of profits. So as you can see, now it's not changing. Okay, well, it is changing. But you could actually take yourself, like here's a profit, but if we go higher, it turns into a loss. So that's something to consider, is the bigger your gap, the bigger the amount of climb. It also means the more likely you are going to lose an opportunity, and you could end up taking a loss. So this is a profit. So now let's play with the look back. And as you can see, you can actually just take and play with these numbers one by one and get a visual effect of how well this works. So there are a lot of things you can do that can help you decide the best level of risk versus reward that you want for this procedure. Now, one thing that you can do, which does work well, and let me get over here where I can demonstrate it. Let's blow this up nice and big. Okay, while you are testing, now this will probably be a win because we have a 1.5 to 1 ratio, but you can do the following. As you tune your numbers, you'll see them change so that you can actually get an idea of how well things might work to try to actually find a combination that might work well for you. For example, now that we have a look back, notice we have 9 wins to 10 wins. Let's try some more numbers. Just playing around here, looking for different numbers. Sometimes a high look back works. Sometimes a high look back doesn't work. In this case, you can tell there are no activities at all. So let's begin scaling it back. Okay, so this is the best we're going to get for this coin. So let's go back to this, which is basically the same ratio. But now let's play with the multiplex. Here we have a break-even. Break-evens are always guaranteed to be profitable when you have a risk-reward ratio of 1 to 1.5. So this is a good combination. How much will you make? That's a different story. But as you can see, by looking at these and tuning them, you can get different combinations. It can also help you pick coins that will work best with this particular kind of approach. So let's go ahead and leave this here. And let's go to the next coin. Now, as you can see, this is a losing coin altogether. Let's reset this back down to 2. And now it's a break-even coin. Okay, it's a losing coin. And as you can see, just by using the arrows and a little bit of time, you can actually find out if you got a good coin or not. And you can even see just how bad it can get. Let's go to the next one. So as you can see, when you're looking at these coins, quite easy to see just how well this can work. But remember, this is a strategic process. It does not allow accumulation. Now, this particular coin is going to do a profit. 17 wins versus 10 losses. 7 by 0.5% is 3.5% profit overall. Not bad. So now let's actually look at the analyzer for it. But by the analysis, this last 17 days actually has a loss for 27 trades. Now, I don't know if I believe that. I think I would rather believe the actual mechanics and do the math by hand. But let's compare that to the dollar cost averaging module. Okay, so $40 of exposure. Let's actually line these up. There we go. Let's scroll this out. We'll get a good look, and you'll actually see just how well this works. Now we're doing a side-by-side of both stop loss and a dollar cost averaging. And this is set to a 2% take profit with a 2% deviation. Very simple, very easy combination, $600 budget. This one doesn't have a $600 budget. Your budget for the stop loss is strictly your position size because it does a 1-to-1 ratio. This one is going to have a maximum budget of 4 for the last 17 days. 4 positions, $44. So, is it better to get in the market and out of the market one way or the other? Or is it better to ride the market and average your profits? Only you can decide that. I personally prefer riding the market. But as you can see, this is a rather nasty accumulation cycle that's pretty much stuck in a long-winded trend. Whereas here, with a $1,000 budget, I can literally trade 100 coins at most, because I'm only using 1 position size per trade. So, this one does tie up more funds because of the accumulation cycle. This one is extremely surgical and fixed. And with 17 wins and 10 losses, it's a guaranteed winner over time for this particular cycle process. Which one does better in the long run? That is strictly up to you to make that decision based upon your risk assessment and your own financial situation. Because as you can see, the stop loss does take quite a few direct losses. So be sure you understand the risks of using such an algorithm. It works well, but will it work for your situation? The stop loss module may not always work best with high volatility coins. Here's a good example. Same time frame. The volatility of this coin causes a $1.57 loss with 19 trades, whereas the dollar cost averaging module has an $18 profit. Now let's look at the metrics. Okay, 18 wins over 12 losses. This says that this coin is going to be profitable. This has a $70 maximum accumulation and exposure for the last 17 days. This says it's made 18 full trades. That will make a profit. So 18 and 12, you're looking at 30 trades total, 18 being profitable. Here you're looking at 7 open positions maximum. So at most 7 trades would be possible with this framework. So you can set yourself up side by side and actually see this kind of analysis, and you can go for all of your coins doing this. Which one will be your best? Which one will be your worst? Now, in both cases, a trailing stop loss might be beneficial to catch these extreme peaks. So, profit versus loss. Risk versus exposure. The risk-reward factor can be quite low with this, with only allowing $11 at a time per coin to be exposed. You could make up the profits quite readily with a large number of coins, minimal exposure, with a surgical entry point. That may prove in the long run more profitable than a dollar cost averaging mechanism that may use a trailing stop loss to try to maximize your profits. There is no way of knowing for sure unless you simply run tests. And that is the whole point, is you will have to test. Some coins will do well. Some coins will do bad. Test, analyze, and repeat the analysis multiple times. Remember, a stop loss is a surgical tool. A dollar cost averaging is a sloppy tool. That's something you need to be aware of. And some coins just don't do good no matter what. So be sure to evaluate and look at your options carefully. Each one has its merits. Each one has its disadvantages. The best way to find out is to run the same recipe with both a stop loss and a dollar cost averaging in a paper trader to see which one fits best your circumstance. There are a lot of ways you can go with this. The winter trading recipe is probably one of the best approaches to look at, though. Remember that the stop loss module does not allow accumulation. That can be very problematic. So you do need to make sure you understand that circumstance. As you can see, some coins are just not worth trading no matter what. Do your research carefully. Do your analysis carefully. There is no substitute for the details of research. Okay, in closing, I'm going to reiterate, this is not a trailing function and it does not allow accumulation. It requires a very surgical, very precise entry point to maximize your profits. The risk-reward ratio should always be a break-even at best for your win-loss ratios, and for the best altogether, your wins should always exceed your losses. If your losses exceed your wins, no matter what this says, you're going to take a loss. So, shoot for break-even and then tune appropriately to try to maximize your profits. So, the advantages of a stop loss: stable coins that would normally have deep channels can be dealt with a little bit easier because you are not staying in the market for that long of a period compared to a dollar cost averaging. I've talked about XRP before. It is a very difficult coin to deal with dollar cost averaging because of its propensity to get stuck in a sideways channel. Tuning a stop loss may be a benefit for this strategy. So it is something to be aware of and to look at carefully. And there are a lot of crypto coins that follow that philosophy. Always take the time to do your research. So as you can see, the same recipe. Two different results. Until next time.